Hi, I'm Heather, a certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, and have my BSN in exercise science and behavioral coaching from Arizona State University. I currently live in Oregon with my 3 kids, who I will reference often.
And I'm Britt, a former Division I collegiate athlete turned recreational triathlete and fitness instructor. I have a degree in exercise biology from UC Davis, and I currently live in Belgium with my husband and 4 kids.
Together, we're best friends wanting to bring the world of health and fitness back to a more grounded and balanced place that's accessible to everyone.
Each episode, we're going to talk about ways to live out a well-rounded and healthy life that makes sense in today's modern, busy world. We'll cover topics related to exercise, nutrition, mindset, mental health, competition, and so much more.
So sit back, sign up, and let's get ready to
Race to wellness.
Yeah.
So before we did or started, I took your, what was it called? The VIA or whatever.
The strengths
form.
questionnaire. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I realized also how similar it was to, I did a strength builder from, what is the company name? Gallup. Strength Builder by Gallup.
Okay.
Few years ago, and it tells you your like 5 qualities of yourself and your strengths, and it's not like pointing out that any of them are bad. They're all like good things if you're putting them to use properly. And for some reason I cannot remember the 5th one I have. So I had maximizer, achiever, competitive or competition, and strategic. All right. Achiever, maximizer, competition, strategic are my like strength builder ones that I did. And as I'm going through the one that you sent, I was like, yep, still true.
Same.
Still true. Same
I love it. My top ones are for the VIA are honesty, kindness, humor, hope, and judgment.
Are these ones that you chose for yourself, or did it give them to you?
It gave them to me. I'm excited to read it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very eye-opening.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. It was mostly eye-opening around the fact that we talked about our resolutions 2 episodes ago. And I said that my resolution was I wanted to be consistently doing my workouts and things. And now after doing this form, it opened my eyes to why I chose that resolution. And it has nothing to do with wanting to be fitter or healthier. Well, I guess healthier, but not in the sense of like we think of when you want to be healthier. Mine was more in the sense of like my mental health and my relaxation of wanting to be healthier. And it was just really interesting to go through those prompts that you have and do the like close your eyes and for 2 minutes picture this. And I was like, okay, let me close my eyes, let me picture this, and now I'll write out the response here. And my response is like, I want to be more calm. I want to be able to disengage from things when I want to, like And as I'm going through it, I realized, well, I tend to use my workouts a lot as a way to disengage from social media or the news or stressful situation at work, whatever. And then after my workout, I feel that sense of relaxation and calm a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
So there it is. Back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love it.
It's a long one. That questionnaire is something else.
Yeah, it definitely, I did it from my phone too, so that probably took longer because I'm typing with 2 thumbs, but it definitely was one I was not expecting to sit down for like an hour to do. I thought it would be like 20 minutes, we're good.
When I send it out to people, I usually forewarn them of like, hey, just so you know, when you sit down to do this, like, first of all, it's going to take a lot of time. And I'm like, second of all, like, it's really in depth. Like, it's not just like, I want to lose 5 pounds. It's like, okay, tell me about yourself, about your true vision here. Yeah.
Right. And I also feel like it never asks you like what your goal is, like until the very last page. But even that isn't the goal you would have said at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And a lot of times we use it like as a reference point. So when we're doing goal setting in a session, when I'm doing goal setting in a session with a person, I use it as a reference point to go back to of like, so now you've set this 1 week goal or this 3 month goal or whatever it is. So let's tie it back to like your vision. Like how is this goal going to help you achieve that vision of yourself?
Yeah. It was definitely more centered around like you and what makes you happy, what's going to fulfill you, what gives you purpose, as opposed to anything coming back and being like, are you going to feel good if the world thinks that you're fit, or if the world thinks you're skinny? Like all of these outside things coming in.
Yeah, for sure. I know that I feel like, as a personal trainer and a yoga instructor, I feel a lot of pressure actually. And I don't know that it's actually coming from people or from society or where it's coming from. It might just be an internal thing, but I'm like, I feel a lot of pressure to look a certain way, because like there's statistically, like people believe the information that is being shared by a fit person about health and wellness. Whereas if you are not a fit person and you're talking about health and wellness, people are less inclined. They're like, well, she's not well, like whatever their judgment is. Yeah. And so I feel a lot of pressure to look and perform a certain way.
I feel that
I also was having a hard time with my like setting my 8 week plan, like to go to Hawaii. I'm like, I'm going to wear a bikini and I don't really care what I look like. So I'm like I was like, so it's not physical motivation. I'm like, I want to be stronger, but again, like, I don't know where I'm starting at. So I can't come up with like, I want to be able to bench press 135 pounds or whatever it is, because I don't know. I could probably do that today. I have no idea. So yeah, but I'm like, but then the same like step, like endurance wise, I don't know where my endurance is. Like thinking about like doing squats, I'm like, can I do 10? Can I do 20? Can I do 1? I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, so it's definitely nice to go to the very beginning and do the assessment and do the boring initial setup hard work.
Yeah.
So that you can actually give yourself a good plan and a good structure to be able to execute on whatever it is your goal is.
Yeah. It's hard work, like really allowing yourself into that mental headspace, even to think of a vision like that. And sometimes we do that, the wellness vision. Sometimes people like, I send it to them and then they look at it and they go, nope, I can't do this. And so then we work through it in the session. And that's mind boggling because then I'm asking the good questions, the open-ended questions, like in the session and helping them. But even then it's really, really hard for people sometimes to get in that moment. I even think about like meditation. Like I have a really hard time with meditation. Sometimes I don't have an issue with being still and like sitting down and just being quiet. But my mind is always like, and so I have a hard time like just giving myself space to just like sit and just be quiet.
Yeah. I also have that issue, although I have the added on issue of I like to move a little bit more. And so as soon as I sit down to like try to meditate and it tells you to get in a comfortable spot and like not move and things, as soon as I wiggle a little bit, I'm always taken right out of it.
Yeah. I get that. I have a hard time. So when we did this, used an app called Levelhead, which gives you like daily prompts around meditation and things to think about. And I like the whole time I was like taking notes on the meditation idea and not actually engaging with the information and doing the meditation. And I couldn't get myself out of that like habit of observation rather than like being present in it, which is again goes back to my New Year's resolution is around being present and allowing myself to just be in that moment. I have a really hard time with it. Like I spend more time just observing what I'm experiencing rather than actually experiencing it. So in today's episode, we're talking about how to begin a fitness routine.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
For you, you've got one that you're allowed to start coming up in like, what, 20 days? What is it? What did we count
Yeah,
down?
21
20
days. Yeah. Yep. We're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of planning around it.
Mhm.
Yeah, which was pretty an eye-opening experience actually, going through it, because I do it for clients all the time, but usually at the point that I start programming for a client, I've done some sort of like an assessment with them. And so I have an understanding of their mechanics and how they're functioning and balancing and where their kind of restrictions are, and where their like weight, their baselines around weightlifting and that kind of stuff are.
Yeah.
So I haven't, for everybody that's listening, I haven't worked out since in almost a year. It's getting pretty close to a year. So I was pregnant for the last 9 months. There was a little bit of things that happened at the beginning of the pregnancy where the family asked me to not do any weightlifting. So I did yoga pretty consistently for about 7 months of the pregnancy. And then the last couple of months I stopped. But what that means for me when I'm planning my new fitness routine and my programming is that I have no baseline. I have no understanding of what I can lift. I have no understanding of where my endurance levels are, anything like that. And so as I've been planning, it's been really challenging for me because I'm like, I want to do split squats and I want to do all these different things, but not understanding if I can do 2 reps of those or if I can do 20 reps of those or what that looks like, has been challenging for me, just like planning wise. So, and I really won't be able to have an understanding of that until I walk in the door of the gym and just pick up a weight and figure out where I am.
It's almost like you are a true beginner.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. I have like the understanding. I'm like, I have the mechanical part of it, which can be difficult for people when they're thinking about picking up a fitness routine, not having an understanding of how the weights work or which muscle groups you want to work out, that kind of stuff. Those can be barriers to success before you even begin a fitness routine. So I have that part where I have the confidence in the movement and the understanding, but I have no idea where I am. So that's a mental barrier for me right now, is that I am slightly terrified about going into the gym. Not for the weightlifting part of it. I realize that I love weightlifting so much and I love the fatigue that happens and I get really zoned in, and it's almost like a meditation for me when I am doing the weightlifting. But the endurance part of it is terrifying for me because I think about when I was doing Taekwondo 3 to 5 times a week, and the difficulty breathing, like the just fatigue that happens, but you keep having to, like, you just keep having to go. That part is a little scary for me.
Yeah. And also, like, I imagine you're probably similar to me because you have the background of, I have done this in the past and I've gotten to a certain level, but now you're starting kind of all over again. And whenever that happens to me, I always feel a little bit bad about myself because I want to be up here in my training, but I have to remind myself constantly that we're not up here yet. We're down here. We're rebuilding this fitness level. You had an injury, you were sick, whatever the thing was that made you lose your fitness. You have to restart down here where we are actually at.
Yes. Which is a point to just being consistent in the work that you're doing, because that mental load of having to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth it's a lot. And speaking to the point that you said of like, you feel almost bad about yourself, which is not a feeling that you want to have. But yeah, I 100% agree, where I'm like, I used to be able to bench press this much and now I'm bench pressing half of that. And also understanding like just the mechanics of the body and like the law of progression. That's something we talk about in personal training and when we're working with clients, is like, I don't want your muscles to hurt so bad 2 days after you do the workout that you free fall to the toilet or you can't walk upstairs. We don't want that to happen. But until I have that baseline for where I'm at, I don't know what that is going to look like. And so, so there's a couple of things that I'm doing. One is that I'm being very, very planful when I'm looking at my programming and giving myself low reps to begin with, low weight to begin with, and starting there, seeing where we are and kind of blocking out that, like, that feeling of like, I don't want to say shame. That's not the right feeling. That's not the right word for it, but that feeling of like disappointment that I'm not lifting where I used to. And then the other part of it is just building with free weight, with body weight. I'm like just using body weight movement and incorporating more movement. The one that I really is a lot of squatting is I've been doing it just around my house to like pick things up. At the end of pregnancy, I got kind of, you can't reach the floor. Like that's just how it is when you're pregnant. You can't reach the floor at all. And so you get like my legs don't function in the same way right now as they did pre-pregnancy. And so retraining my brain and my body that I can squat down and I can reach the floor and doing that sort of movement throughout the day.
Yeah, it's like having to rewire your brain for like the muscle movement, because
Mm-hmm.
for however long that you were pregnant enough that you couldn't actually squat, your body has, or your brain has now learned your body can't do this movement and is trying to tell you at some points you can't do this movement.
Yeah. And you literally, like physically I can do the movement now, but I'm having to retrain it. Cool. So yeah, thinking about, I guess we'll use myself as an example since it's something that I'm going through, but thinking about beginning a fitness routine, the number one thing that I have been doing is discovering my why. Why am I wanting to start a fitness routine? Why am I wanting to change the way that I'm eating? That's the biggest thing. And thinking about it from multiple perspectives. So like, do I have a physical goal? Is there a mental or emotional or spiritual goal related to diet and exercise, to fitness? Do I want to look a certain way? Do I want to feel a certain way? Does it help me emotionally process what I'm going through in my life? Like what are the reasons? So coming up with something, this is where we talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic value in fitness, is that if you're coming up with a goal and it's external, so thinking about an external reason would be something like, I want to look a certain way, not for myself and because of the confidence that it builds, but because society tells me that I should look a certain way. That would be a very extrinsic reason, an external purpose behind your exercise. Whereas an intrinsic would be, I want to look a certain way so that I feel confident in my body, so that I can walk down the street and feel confident about who I am. And there's intrinsics and extrinsics in all of them. So in the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of those realms. But really kind of whying it down so that you have a good understanding of why you're wanting to do the fitness routine. Starting from that basis is going to give you the strength to continue on in those moments when you are not wanting to get up and go to the gym and not wanting to eat a salad or eat chicken and broccoli anymore, something like that.
For real. I think that for me, over the past like 10 years, I've struggled with my why, because I came from being a college athlete, and getting up to that, I was a high school athlete and a middle school athlete. And you're always a part of a team. You've got your structured workouts, you've got your thing, you've got your goal, your championship, whatever it is planned for you.
Yeah.
And then I graduated college and I'm no longer doing that sport in a competitive sense. So why am I lifting weights? Or what it was more for me was, why was I going on this run? I don't care anymore. There's no race or anything that I'm training for that I'm going to win. Like, why am I doing this? And so I have a very severe yo-yo pattern up and down of, I'm really on task, I'm not on task. I'm really on task, I'm not on task. I'm dedicated, I'm whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. I think that's super common, actually. I think that a lot of people have that experience. And so, but always coming back to that why.
It's definitely 100% related to, we don't have a strong why as to why we are embarking on the fitness routine that we're doing, or the activity that we're doing. Like, it's not strong enough internally for me to go out when it's cold. Like, I did not go running the last 3 days because it's been really cold here and I just cannot be bothered to go out in that right now.
Yeah, I get that. I know that, like, I talk about my why, like my overarching for my entire life is that I don't want to be 70 years old and unable to squat down to the floor. I want to be able to play with potential grandkids, or go on a run still, or hike a mountain, or go to the beach, or do any of those things when I'm older. And so that's an overarching for my life. But that reason is not enough for me to go outside and hike right now. Like, that's not, I'm
Well,
not going to
especially
do.
because right now you can do that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you have to now add on extra behaviors to be able to do it right now. Right now you
Yeah.
can squat down to the
Do
floor.
all
Maybe
of
you
those
can.
things.
We're not sure yet.
Yeah, I can. It's gotten bad. Thank God.
We're good. But yeah, right
We're
now you
good.
can do those behaviors, but what your lifelong overarching goal is that when you're older, you'd like to still be able to. And so you have to
Yeah.
have a really strong bond on that why to be able to
Mhm.
continue doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Which is where creating a wellness vision really comes in and helps. So this is something I sent it to Brittany, and she did it,
Oh,
and
we
she had
talked
some kind of
about
aha
it.
moments. We talked about it. Yeah. But this is something that I do with a lot of my clients, which it draws on your entire life, I guess, and about who you are. It talks about,
Mhm.
it asks a lot of really good open-ended questions and gives you space to really think about what a fitness routine or what a diet change in your life or any sort of health behavior or wellness behavior, how that would impact your life. Um, and it's around goal setting, but you don't do the goal setting until the end of it. So it gives you a space and an opportunity to just talk about what you want out of life. How did you
Yeah.
feel about it, about your wellness vision?
I really enjoy the process, honestly, mostly because it was so different than what my expectations were of it. And by the time I got to the end of it, I was much happier with what it gave me than what I think my expectations of it would have been.
When I send it to my clients, usually I give like a warning that it's going to take you a fair amount of time. So sit down and be in a space where you're okay and open and willing to do that, because it takes a lot of time, but
Yeah.
it's worth it, I think.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part of it all, though, was doing it on my own. I think because you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that sometimes you do it with people in person, basically, and you walk
Mm-hmm.
them through it. I think that would have been a much different experience than me
Yeah.
reading through all the prompts and things. And each question has different prompts that you could respond to, and whatever one kind of resonates, that's how you're going to answer
Mm-hmm.
this question. I think that I would have resonated slightly different if you had walked me through it rather than me reading it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would have probably still got to the
I
same goals and the same outcomes, but it would have been a much
mm-hmm.
different experience.
Yeah, I agree, especially because you and I know each other.
Yeah.
So I kind of have like this image of you built in my head and an understanding of
Mm-hmm.
your goals and motivations and that kind of stuff. And so as we would have been going through that, I would have probably imprinted a little bit of my experience with you on that situation. Whereas with a new client, I don't have any of that yet. Usually this is sent to them before I even meet with them. Like I usually meet with somebody briefly to see if it's going to be a potentially good fit so that we kind of see what the chemistry is like, that kind of thing. But yeah, during that first kind of wellness vision and goal setting conversation, I don't have any real understanding of who they are yet. And so it makes it a little bit easier to just talk through and ask those open-ended questions, which is a learning experience for me because of how they answer the questions and how they go through that. But it's also because I don't have the experience with them, it makes it really nice for me to just be like a sounding board for people.
I think that it's also something that you need to be willing to be honest, open, and vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
with, because there were a couple questions where I didn't want to answer it the way that I did answer it, simply because I
Mm-hmm.
know who it's going to. I'm not taking it as your client. I'm just taking it to see like what this whole thing
Yeah.
was that you were going to talk about and everything. And I knew you were going to get my responses. And so
Yeah.
a couple of them I was like, do I really want to say like this is
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm vulnerable with or whatever? And then I was like, you know what? You got to suspend the like those fears and
Yeah.
just write it all out, because ultimately this
Yeah.
is more for you than it is for someone else.
It is definitely one of the things is that they say, don't behavioral coach your friends. Like this is not
Yeah.
a thing that you should do on a regular basis. It'd be
Yeah, for
like
sure.
crossing that barrier a little bit. So
Well, also it's like you were saying, you have a vision of your friends in your brain already that you've you've forged over however long your friendship is. And
Yeah.
they have a vision of themselves on how they want to portray themselves. And
Yeah.
if they're in conflict with each other, it is a little awkward when you have to like sit down and talk about it through working through issues and things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you realize we've been friends for like, what is it,
Yeah.
8 or 9 years? It blew me away. I like, so on Facebook. So for those of you that are listening, so Brittany and I met at a Foo Fighters concert. We were both on floor level, so a standing room only. And she had gotten pizza with her husband, and I had gotten pizza with my husband. And my husband, now ex-husband, my kid's dad, we're standing there with our pizza. And in my brain, I'm like, I really want to sit down on the floor, but is it weird? And then Brittany and her husband walked into the room and they sat down to eat their pizza on the floor. And I was like, we should those people. And so we literally sat down and had pizza, and that's how our friendship began. And we've been friends. So yeah.
It was that confidence that I had in myself that I did not care about anyone else in this room. I need to sit down to eat my pizza.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to stand here and eat it. And I remember it was like this perfect like cacophony of things, because I'm like having the thought of I want to sit down, and then I turn and see them and I was like, yes, those are my people.
Yeah. So many things had to go right for that moment too. Like we both had to have bought pizza. We both had to have had standing room seats for the concert. We both had to have been there at the same time, like standing in the same area. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was just perfect. It was meant to be. So and we've seen other Foo Fighters concerts. I'm like, that's totally a bonding thing between us. Dave Grohl is the man. Anyway, getting back to your fitness routine. I think it's really cool that you took the time to go through the wellness vision. That's something. So one of the things that I offer is the behavioral coaching for everybody listening. So if that's something that's interesting for you, feel free to reach out and we can talk about what that looks like. But yeah, I feel like it's really helpful when
put a link down below for your website.
And then once you kind of create the wellness vision, I think that understanding your strengths and how to use those to your benefit is really massively important when it comes to goal setting. So understanding that if you're super motivated by community or spirituality, by friendship, by honesty, by all of these different things, using those strengths to your benefit, and really planning for the moments when you're in a fitness routine and you are not wanting to do it. I talk about sometimes, or a phrase that I say is, you will never always be motivated. So you have to be disciplined. And so understanding that moments in everybody's fitness routine, in everybody's diet, in everybody's life come up where you just don't want to do it anymore. And so using your strengths to overcome those difficulties.
And depending on like where you are in your life and how you maybe have learned, grown, or just transitioned, your strengths could change.
Absolutely. Like I'm trying to think of myself 15 years ago versus the person I am now. And while still my like underlying, like there's a core portion of who you are as a person that's always there, but I'm not the same person as I was when I was 20 years old. I don't think I could have started a fitness routine when I was 20 years old and stuck to it with any sort of consistency at all. I think I was I was probably 25 or 26 the first time that I ran an endurance event. I ran a half marathon when I was pregnant with my second kiddo. And even that 5-year difference was, I had a child and then was pregnant with my second child in there. And that life experience impacted everything and who I was. All right. So now that we have an understanding of our strengths and opportunities and what our overall overarching wellness vision is, it would be time to create a plan around what we're doing.
Yeah. So I do have a question about yours, because you're essentially doing this for yourself. Are you doing an assessment of yourself, or are you just jumping in and doing like the first week, like with really low stuff?
That's a good, I hadn't thought about doing an assessment on myself. yeah, I should probably do that. Like, I also was thinking about, so the wellness vision, it was really interesting because you went through it. I haven't done a wellness vision for myself since last year. And I think that I should probably do that again so that I have a more solid understanding. That's something that I came to this morning. I was like, oh yeah, that's a tool that I have in my box that I'm not currently using because I've been under the impression of like, oh, I did that, so it's done. And I'm like, but again, like we were talking about, I did that probably 18 months ago. And that person that I was 18 months ago is maybe not the same as I am right now.
Yeah. And you had different goals, especially in the short term when you did it.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's definitely true. And I also thinking about like back to when I did it, it was part of a class. It was part of one of my last classes in order to finish my degree. And I don't think that I was probably as open or vulnerable in that space because I knew it was going to my professor and was like, this feels weird. So yeah, so I think that I should probably redo that. So I'm putting it on my task list to do. I have until the 15th, but I'm like, that's 21 days and I would like to do it sooner than that. So I have a clear understanding. And I think that would probably, as we're going through this, that would probably help with my planning.
Probably.
Because I'm like, so the 8 weeks that we're talking about. So on February 15th, I get cleared to work out again. And I have a trip planned to Hawaii in April, which is about 8 weeks and 2 days. So I've been very like, honestly, I've been very like, I want to be able to wear a bikini on the beach, but that's not motivating for me because I don't care what I look like when I wear a bikini. So I'm like, so I have to come up with some more intrinsic reasons. To do the exercise. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to do it like fitness and exercising and going to the gym. It's so much part of my routine that I don't question myself around getting up and going and doing it. But I feel like there's so much more value in doing it if I have that motivator.
Yeah.
So I need to do that. I need to do this physical assessment as well as the wellness vision, which is great.
I love how the first podcast, it was me on the spotlight hot seat being like, oh yeah. And now this time it's you.
I know, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm like, sweet Jesus, did I do the work? No, Heather, you didn't.
No, I did not do that yet.
Pretending like right? Way to be.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel like that is a really good thing to start out a plan though, is starting at the bottom with your assessment of this is where I am today. Because that way you're not wasting any time with, and I don't want to call it a BS workout because most workouts are in some way beneficial, whether it's for you physically or mentally or whatever, but you might not get the most out of it if you're just lifting 5-pound weights because you're not sure you can lift the 10-pound weights.
Yeah. I have a lot of weights in the back of my car right now. It's great. So I'm going to do that. So one of the things about setting goals and about doing it is if you can do it in the moment, you should do it. And so I'm creating a plan right now. Let's do this. Let's create this plan. So today is what?
Smart
today
goal,
is
this
Wednesday.
plan.
Shit. Oh my gosh. Smart goal it out. So I need to do the wellness vision and the physical assessment. So what that's going to look like, the physical assessment. Let's start there. The physical assessment, smart goal it. I'm going to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely in this. So specific. Tomorrow I will complete. But so tomorrow I will be doing a squat assessment. I will do it at 10 a.m. It's measurable. It will give me an understanding of where I am. But the measurable part of that is that I will accomplish it. So in order to measure that, today I have not done it. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will have done it. It is attainable for me. It's relevant. I need this as part of my training plan in order to be able to do that. And timely, it's happening tomorrow.
All right.
Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm going to put that in my phone. So that's another thing I have to do. Put
the accountable part.
Yeah. There we go, guys.
Woo-woo.
That's how you do it.
And next week we'll find out if she was accountable for that.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be great. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a shameless plug here that so the 8-week program that I'm creating for myself, leading up to from February 15th through I think it's April 12th is when it's through. So I'm going to be sharing that 8-week program online. I'll link it in the description down below. So check it out. It's free. It's a program. You can let me know what your thoughts are. Comment below.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to wrap up for the day.
If you're at a space in your life where you're setting goals for yourself and starting a fitness routine, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, let us know. We'd love to know what you're doing this new year, what your New Year's resolution was, and what your focus for the next period of time is. Let us know.
Thanks for joining us today at Race to Wellness. We hope it was both fun and informative for you. Make sure to join us for our next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. Also, we'd love to keep the conversation going, so feel free to ask us any questions or leave us a comment down below. You can also send us an email at racetowellness2023@gmail.com and click on the links in the description to follow us on our social media platforms.